Okay, so we got one side of the aisle saying natural sugar is fine to eat. We got the other side of the aisle saying sugar is sugar. We got people who feel like shit, who don't know why they feel so bad. We got people who do whatever they want and they feel great. So this is episode one of my all-encompassing holistic living series. We're gonna quickly kind of skim the tip of the iceberg and start with sugar. So sugar falls into two categories. What even is sugar? It's either a monosaccharide, which is literally one sugar molecule. This is glucose, fructose, or galactose. Galactose forms when dairy ferments, and the lactose molecule splits into two. One's glucose, one is galactose. And then we have polysaccharides, which is two or more sugar molecules. Disaccharide is two. Polysaccharide, we have oligosaccharide, which is multiple. And these two or more sugar molecules get broken down by your gut bacteria into monosaccharides, one sugar molecule, glucose, fructose, or galactose. So let's start with these simple sugars that don't require your gut bacteria to do much work. So the difference between healthy sugars and terrible for you sugars. So naturally occurring sources such as fruit contain fiber and phytochemicals like polyphenols. Berries contain anthocyanins. Green tea and other fruit contains catechins. And there's probably 10 or 15 more categories of these phytochemicals. And the fiber and the phytochemicals impact the downstream sugar metabolization in ways such as lowering your glucose spike. These polyphenols and phytochemicals themselves also provide a benefit to your gut bacteria by proliferating the positive strains and suppressing, or even in some cases killing, the pathogenic strains of gut bacteria. So that's what happens when you eat these natural sugars. But what about cane sugar? What if you eat, say, a chocolate bar which has three ingredients or something like that? Cocoa butter, um, and cane sugar, two ingredients. In that case, it's not so bad. I mean, you're getting that unhindered glucose spike, but if you're metabolically healthy and insulin sensitive, that shouldn't matter much to you. The problem comes in where you get artificial sources like added cane sugar, high fructose corn syrup. They have no fiber or phytochemicals to impact downstream metabolization. And worst of all, this is where the main issue comes in. It's not even that glucose spike. They're usually accompanied by 100 million other man-made ingredients and chemicals in your Snickers bar or whatever you're eating, like emulsifiers, colorings, fillers, binders, gums, lecithins, seed oils, etc., etc. Things that if you read, they're like 23 characters just to read the thing, and then you don't know what it is. And if you look it up, it's like, oh yeah, this was synthesized in like 2011 by Procter and Gamble. And these things are doing major damage to your gut. They're causing leaky gut. They're setting the stage for chronic disease or even acute disease. And if you're not metabolically healthy or insulin sensitive, you're getting an awful glucose spike from these things, along with gut irritation. So that's kind of the difference between these simple sugars like fruit and candy bars. Not all sugar is equal. It's not that, oh, it's fructose here and it's fructose here. It's glucose here and it's glucose here. You have to look at the other accompanying factors to figure out if this sugar is actually healthy or not. If you're eating a healthy chocolate bar, say a company like Who, HU, not sponsored by the way, I don't even have money, and it's like three ingredients and one of them is cane sugar, that's fine. That's fine to eat. But if you're eating a Snickers bar and there's 75 ingredients and all of them are man-made, synthesized in a lab, and none of them are good for you, that's no longer fine. And yes, there is a difference between eating that and an apple. So let's move on to the polysaccharides. This is when two or more sugar molecules are eaten and they get broken down in the body by your gut bacteria into monosaccharides. An example of this is lactose, which we all know. Sucrose. Sucrose can appear in things like unripe fruit because it has not yet broken down into glucose and fructose. And there are many, many other types of polysaccharides. So the difference between healthy polysaccharides and terrible for you polysaccharides. So an example of a healthy one would be unprocessed ancient whole grains like einkorn or spelt is another example. These grains can be broken down by your gut bacteria, and they strengthen the gut bacteria because the gut bacteria feed on these fibers, on these saccharides when they break them down. And it helps your microbiota, your gut microbiome stay healthy and thrive. However, even with these healthy polysaccharides, it may not work for a very sensitive group of people like myself who are in gut dysbiosis, because the fiber will feed the pathogenic bacteria and further enhance your gut dysbiosis. So if you're in a very sensitive group, it may be best to back away from these things. Now, what about terrible for you polysaccharides? Like white bread. White bread is not even bread. I hope we all know that by now. So these artificial white breads, pastas, which are ultra processed, anything like that, they are sugar and chemical laden, like oatmeals, toasts, Texas toast, or whatever people eat. They're not even considered a grain. And it's the same story as the Snickers bar or just any type of monosaccharide like this as well, with added ingredients. The ultra processing that it takes to create these breads and pastas and toasts and oatmeals removes any possible benefit that the carbs can have. It adds a million ingredients which irritate the gut, cause leaky gut, and set the stage for chronic and acute disease. And you get an unadulterated glucose spike. And so I think that pretty much covers the scope of this video. Just a very, very rudimentary skimming of the iceberg of healthy versus unhealthy sugars. It's not black and white like, oh, bro, just eat fruit and don't eat anything else. You kind of have to look at the nuance of it to truly understand. Yes, you can eat cane sugar sometimes. Organic cane sugar, when it's added to things, it doesn't include emulsifiers or any of that stuff, is not bad for you. You can eat bread. You can eat sourdough. You can eat einkorn. You can eat spelt. You can even eat well-made pastas and things like that and still be fine. It's not black and white. There's a gray area. And I hope this covers some of it, kind of unsheaths some of the mystery. And next episode, recommendations in the comments, please.